In 2002, archaeologist Christopher Henshelwood made a groundbreaking discovery in these ancient dirt layers that altered our understanding of human history. He uncovered a small slab of red iron-rich stone called ochre, carved 73,000 years ago with deliberate, crisscrossing geometric lines. This wasn't an accidental scratch or butchery mark, it was a deliberate, repeating crosshatched grid pattern drawn by a focused human mind. Imagine an ancient artisan sitting by the fire, holding a sharp stone tool and carefully engraving abstract geometric lines into red mineral rock. Red ochre was the ancient world's crayon and sunscreen, ground into fine powder to paint bodies, dye animal hides, and mark sacred spaces. By carving this pattern, your ancestor created the world's oldest known abstract drawing, a permanent physical code storing human thought outside the brain. In the same cave layers, archaeologists discovered dozens of tiny sea snail shells, carefully pierced with delicate holes and stained with red pigment. 75,000 years ago, your ancestors strung these red-dyed shells onto sinew thread, wearing them as necklaces, bracelets, and decorated clothing. These shell beads served as ancient social Wi-Fi, instantly broadcasting your identity, group membership, and social status to strangers without speaking. When you met a neighboring band on the open savanna, wearing matching beads signaled trust, shared culture, and peaceful intentions. Anthropologists call this external symbolic storage, using physical objects to hold social information and cultural meaning outside of human memory. Just as you wear designer clothes or display digital profile badges today, your ancient ancestors used beads to define their social identity. This symbolic revolution proved that Homo sapiens in Africa possessed fully modern, creative minds tens of thousands of years before reaching Europe. As human bands migrated north into Ice Age Europe, this newly unlocked symbolic mind was about to ignite the walls of pitch-black caves. 36,000 years ago, deep inside the pitch-black limestone caverns of Chauvet in southern France, your ancestors took another breathtaking leap forward. Crawling hundreds of meters into pitch-black subterranean darkness away from natural daylight, ancient artists carried fat-burning lamps and glowing pine wood torches. On the undulating rock faces, they painted sprawling galleries of lions, woolly rhinoceroses, galloping horses, and massive bison using charcoal and ochre. In 2012, French researcher Marc Azema discovered something extraordinary about these paintings. Ancient cave artists were actually creating the world's first animation. By drawing animals with 8 legs or multiple overlapping heads, artists captured split-second movement long before modern cinema projectors or television screens existed. When flickering orange torchlight danced across the curved stone surfaces, the painted beasts appeared to breathe, run, and hunt in the shadows. Standing inside the dark subterranean cavern, your ancestors were not merely looking at flat pictures, they were experiencing an immersive prehistoric movie theater. This visual storytelling was closely tied to what happened around night fires, where humans gathered after dark to share stories, myths, and songs. Anthropologist Polly Wiesner spent years studying hunter-gatherer conversations, discovering that daylight talk focused on economic survival, but night fire talk focused on imagination. Over 80% of nighttime campfire conversations were spent telling supernatural tales, sharing tribal histories, and bonding through shared cultural imagination. Fire gave your ancestors 4 extra hours of light every single night, transforming dangerous dark hours into a creative theater for human language. By pairing spoken campfire myths with permanent wall art, ancient humans created a powerful multisensory system for teaching tribal values across generations. These painted caves were sacred libraries where young initiates learned tribal secrets, hunting strategies, and spiritual legends carved into enduring stone. Yet alongside these magnificent animal paintings lay something even more important: tiny, quiet geometric marks that most early historians completely overlooked. What did these mysterious repeating dots, lines, and chevrons mean? To unlock this secret code, researchers had to examine hundreds of European caves. Canadian paleoanthropologist Genevieve von Petzinger spent years compiling the world's first comprehensive digital database of geometric signs found in Ice Age European caves. Surveying 52 caves across France, Spain, Portugal, and Russia, her research team cataloged thousands of non-figurative marks left on ancient stone walls. Expectations suggested humans drew endless random shapes over 30,000 years, yet the research revealed a mind-blowing, highly structured historical truth. Across the entire European continent during the Ice Age, ancient humans repeatedly used only 32 specific geometric signs over and over again. From simple dots, lines, and chevrons to open angles, spirals, and hand stencils, these exact 32 symbols remained remarkably consistent for 30 millennia. This incredible consistency proves that these geometric marks were not accidental scribbles, but a standardized code understood across hundreds of generations. Imagine an ancient artist carefully painting 3 red dots beside a running horse, knowing another hunter miles away would instantly understand the meaning. What did these dots and chevrons communicate? Scientists hypothesize they represented landscape maps, clan territory markers, hunting counts, or seasonal calendar tracking. Remarkably, abstract geometric signs outnumber famous animal paintings in Ice Age caves by more than 2 to 1 across nearly every single site. While modern tourists admire magnificent mammoths and lions, your ancestors placed far greater practical importance on those small, quiet geometric symbols in dark corners. These 32 signs acted like ancient highway navigation symbols or modern emoji icons, conveying complex ideas without needing full written sentence structures. As human bands migrated through freezing glacial landscapes, they carried this shared symbolic vocabulary in their minds, preserving human culture across vast distances. This was the true birth of proto-writing, the first stage of written language, born tens of thousands of years before Mesopotamian clay accounting tablets. Your ancestors had successfully transformed stone walls into an interconnected information network, linking distant tribes through a shared visual language. Among these 32 universal signs, one mark stood out as the most personal statement of human identity: the stenciled handprint carved in red. You place your left hand flat against a cold cave rock face, fill your mouth with liquid red ochre, and blow a fine crimson mist over your fingers. When you pull your hand away, a striking negative silhouette remains stamped into the stone, the oldest surviving physical signature of human presence on planet Earth. These negative hand stencils appear in prehistoric caves across every inhabited continent, from Cueva de las Manos in Argentina to Sulawesi in Indonesia and El Castillo in Spain. For decades, archaeologists debated the meaning of these handprints. Was it a sacred tribal ritual, a claim of territory, or a simple human declaration saying, "I was here"? Detailed measurement studies by archaeologist Dean Snow prove that over 75% of Ice Age cave handprints actually belonged to prehistoric women and teenage children. This discovery shattered the old stereotype that ancient cave art was made exclusively by male hunters preparing for dangerous hunts, proving art belonged to the entire community. In caves like Gargas in France, many handprints appear with missing fingers or shortened joints, sparking intense debate among historians about ancient ritual mutilation or hand signals. Rather than severed fingers, modern researchers like Jean-Michel Chazin suggest artists folded their fingers against the rock to create silent hunting sign signals on cave walls. Hunter-gatherers needed silent hand language to signal animal locations during stealthy stalking without making a sound that would alert skittish prey on the open grasslands. Stenciling a hand onto stone transformed a temporary biological body into an immortal mark, allowing an individual to speak across tens of thousands of years of human time. Today, when you sign a contract or press your thumb against a digital fingerprint scanner, you are using the exact same human impulse that created cave handprints. For tens of thousands of years, this rich system of cave art, geometric symbols, and hand stencils satisfied all the communication needs of mobile hunter-gatherer tribes. But 10,000 years ago, the warming global climate brought an end to the Ice Age, triggering a monumental shift in how humans lived, ate, and interacted. Humans stopped wandering and settled into permanent agricultural villages, domesticating wild wheat and livestock, creating larger populations than any cave wall could track. As trade, property, and population numbers exploded, ancient humans needed a completely new tool to count grain and livestock, forcing the invention of true written record-keeping. 10,000 years ago, as the Ice Age thawed, human bands settled into permanent farming villages across the Fertile Crescent, domesticating wild grains and livestock. As villages grew into bustling towns, human memory hit a hard evolutionary limit. No human brain could reliably remember hundreds of grain debts, animal trades, and land boundaries. To solve this memory crisis, ancient Mesopotamian farmers invented small geometric clay tokens, tiny physical shapes representing specific quantities of wheat, oil, and livestock. In 1992, French-American archaeologist Denis Schmant-Besserat proved that these humble clay tokens were the direct ancestors of all modern written scripts. A small clay cone stood for a measure of grain, a sphere represented a container of oil, and a disc marked an animal, creating an unambiguous tactile accounting code. To prevent trade fraud, ancient merchants enclosed these tokens inside hollow clay balls called bulli, sealing them shut with wet clay like a prehistoric tamper-proof safe. Before sealing the hollow ball, merchants pressed the tokens onto the wet exterior surface, leaving clear two-dimensional outline impressions of what lay hidden inside. Then came a brilliant flash of human insight. If the pressed marks on the outside clearly showed what was inside, the hollow ball and internal tokens were completely useless. Ancient accountants realized they could simply flatten clay into thin tablets and press reed styluses directly into the soft clay to record every transaction permanently. In a single stroke of genius, three-dimensional physical tokens collapsed into two-dimensional written symbols on a flat portable surface, creating the world's very first clay manuscripts. Writing was not invented to compose romantic poetry, record epic myths, or honor gods. It was created by ancient accountants strictly to track tax receipts and grain debts. For centuries, every single written document on Earth was an economic contract, proving that human literacy was driven entirely by practical trade rather than artistic expression. Among these ancient accounting tablets sits a barley receipt from 3100 BCE signed by a person named Cuneiform, quite possibly the oldest individually named human in written history. Cuneiform was not a mighty king, conqueror, or legendary hero, but a humble barley accountant whose name survived 5,000 years because he kept accurate trade receipts. As cities expanded, these simple clay receipts evolved into complex pictograms, setting the stage for the greatest leap in human communication, abstract cuneiform writing. As ancient Mesopotamian cities expanded, drawing detailed pictograms of sheep and grain onto wet clay became far too slow for busy marketplace scribes. To speed up writing, scribes rotated pictures sideways and replaced curved lines with sharp, straight wedge strokes made by pressing a triangular reed stylus into soft clay. This created cuneiform, meaning wedge-shaped, the world's first formal abstract writing system, emerging in ancient Sumeria around 5,200 years ago. As cuneiform evolved, it made a profound conceptual breakthrough, moving from drawing physical things to representing the abstract phonetic sounds of spoken human speech. Scholars call this the rebus principle, using the drawn picture of an object to represent the sound of a word, like drawing an eye to represent I. For the first time in human history, marks carved onto clay did not merely depict a visual scene, they captured and preserved the exact cadence of spoken language. Spoken words, which once vanished into thin air the millisecond they were uttered, were now permanently frozen onto stone tablets that could survive for thousands of years. With cuneiform established, writing expanded beyond accounting into law codes, like the famous Code of Hammurabi around 1750 BCE, establishing official justice carved in basalt pillars. Meanwhile, in ancient Egypt, hieroglyphs preserved artistic beauty, blending pictographic animals and symbols with phonetic sound values carved onto temple walls and painted on papyrus scrolls. However, both cuneiform and hieroglyphs required memorizing hundreds of intricate symbols, keeping the power of literacy strictly locked inside elite guilds of royal scribes and priests. Around 1800 BCE in the Sinai Desert, working-class Canaanite miners made the ultimate democratic leap, inventing the world's very first phonetic alphabet to write their own messages. They took simple Egyptian pictograms, like an ox head called Alp and a house called Bet, and simplified them into 22 easy letters, creating the Proto-Sinaitic alphabet. Instead of studying for decades to learn thousands of complex signs, anyone could now master reading and writing in just a few days, spreading literacy across the Mediterranean.
Phoenician traders carried this alphabet to the Greeks, who added vowels, and the Romans reshaped it into Latin letters, creating the exact alphabet you are reading right now. Yet, as abstract alphabets replaced visual pictures, did modern human communication lose something essential from our cave painting roots? In our final chapter, we look into the digital mirror. Today, inside our hyper-connected digital world, human beings send over 10 billion colorful emojis and digital icons across smartphone screens every single day. When you tap a small red heart, a thumbs up, or a folded hands icon, you are instantly conveying complex emotion without writing words. Modern linguists note a fascinating evolutionary parallel. After thousands of years of phonetic alphabets, human communication is returning to visual ideograms. Just like 32 geometric symbols painted in Ice Age caves, emojis cross language barriers, allowing people around the globe to instantly connect. Your human brain remains fundamentally visual, hardwired over hundreds of thousands of years to process images and symbols far faster than dense text. When you scroll through modern social media feeds, you are navigating a vast digital cave wall packed with visual stories and symbolic badges. From 73,000 years ago in Blombos Cave to modern computer servers, humanity's drive to store thought outside our bodies never stopped. Every book, every digital photograph, and every text message you create is a continuation of that ancient desire for mental permanence. We built civilization not simply because we could speak, but because we learned to make our thoughts outlive our fleeting biological lives. Biological bodies decay, tribes migrate, and spoken voices fade, but symbolic marks carved into stone or etched in light endure across millennia. You are part of an unbroken lineage of symbolic thinkers extending back through hundreds of generations of prehistoric artists and visionary minds. The next time you tap a digital screen or carve your name on a wooden bench, remember where that impulse originated. Millions of years of human evolution wired your mind to reach beyond yourself and leave a lasting trace of your existence behind. You are not just a reader of written history. You are the living result of humanity's greatest cognitive and artistic invention. When you run your fingers over glowing glass screens today, you are touching those 32 ancient red ochre symbols on the cave wall.
You run your fingers over 32 mysterious geometric symbols painted in red ochre on a freezing cave wall 36,000 years ago. You do not hear a single spoken word, yet your mind instantly decodes a message left by someone who died tens of thousands of years ago. For over 99% of human existence, every spoken word died the exact millisecond it left the human throat, dissolving instantly into thin air. Before cuneiform tablets or alphabets existed, ancient artists created humanity's very first external hard drive to store memories beyond the living body. Modern humans produce over 100 billion gigabytes of digital data every single day, storing thoughts effortlessly in cloud servers and hard drives. Yet for hundreds of thousands of years, your ancient ancestors lived in a world where knowledge could only survive as long as someone stayed alive. When an elder died without passing on their knowledge, an entire lifetime of wisdom, medicinal lore, and tribal history vanished forever into quiet oblivion. How did early humans break free from the terrifying biological deadline of biological death and project their thoughts into the distant future? Spoken language was a revolutionary evolutionary tool, allowing early hunter-gatherer bands to coordinate hunts, share food, and build strong social bonds. However, spoken sound waves possess a fatal physical limitation. Sound vibrations vanish instantly, reaching only those standing within physical hearing distance. If you wanted to warn a neighboring band 10 miles away, or leave a message for your grandchildren, spoken words were completely useless. Human memory is fragile and prone to distortion, meaning stories told across generations slowly changed, morphed, or faded away entirely over time. Our ancestors needed a permanent physical anchor, a way to freeze human thought on an enduring surface that could survive rain, wind, and mortality. This crucial shift marked the birth of symbolic thinking, where a physical mark or carved object represented a deep, shared abstract idea. To discover where this extraordinary cognitive revolution began, we must travel back over 70,000 years to a windswept cave in South Africa. Standing inside Blombos Cave on the southern tip of South Africa, you look out over the roaring waves of the Indian Ocean.